And hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Pumpkin Coptercast, the only video game show. So today I'm joined by Jacob, and he is going to talk with me for a bit about his soon-to-be game Cat Crash.
Hello, how's it going?
Hi. So yeah, we'll start with just telling all the listeners at home a bit about you.
Okay, yeah, I work on games on the side. I'm a software engineer by with my day job, but
Mm-hmm.
every morning I wake up early and start working on Cat Crash. I got into programming because of video games when I was a kid, and I've been making games since like middle school with Game Maker and all that kind of stuff. It's evolved to Unity now, but yeah, I love indie games and I really want to break into the field, and I'm trying that with Cat Crash and trying all kinds of different things here, and I hope that Cat Crash is a good entry game into the industry.
Okay. And what would you say was your. How did you first get introduced to video games, just in general?
Just like playing games.
Yeah.
Uh, that's a long time ago. I mean Nintendo 64 and uh Mario 64. I think Roller Coaster Tycoon was the most amazing game to me as a kid, and I would play it until early morning hours before I even knew that was like a normal thing. And those kinds of things just yeah, really got me fascinated with games. And eventually I got like Game Boy and PlayStation and all that. But yeah.
Okay. And what would you say is your favorite game or games growing up?
uh, I think I mean Roller Coaster Tycoon like really stuck in my life. There's like so much you could do with it. But once around like high schoolish, I think like Warcraft and StarCraft were really cool to me because you could create those custom games, and that it allowed so much. And I loved making games in that, and then obviously playing everyone else's games with my friends and all that.
Okay. And what would you say is your favorite game or games now?
I definitely don't play games as much. I definitely try to play test games with everyone, but a game lately I've been having a lot of fun with Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. That's
Oh,
been a cool game.
yep. I need to get to that.
Yeah, yeah, the co-op in those games are just great, and my wife and I play all the time.
Okay. And if we were if you were in like a physical space right now and someone was walking by Cat Crash, what would be the elevator pitch you would give them to like get them interested as quickly as possible?
Good question. Um, Here, let me start. So it's not your average mobile game. It's inspired by Angry Birds, but catapulting. It's such a weird way. Like I try to go through various pitches with this game because it works various ways with different people. But the inspiration is Angry Birds. You place two paws and you catapult through the world, destroying everything, and also inspired by Rayman Legends.
Mm-hmm.
So you got these like various platformer types being chasing, destroying, collecting, all these things. But yeah, the main thing is not your average mobile game, inspired by Angry Birds and Rayman Legends, in a catapulting adventure kind of thing.
Okay, and what was the first thing that gave you the idea for like what eventually resulted in being Cat Crash?
So yeah, it definitely started with the thought of wanting to have Angry Birds, but uh, anywhere. So like being able to set up your slingshot at any point. And I actually started with a cat because I was like, oh, the idea is almost like a pouncing as you go through the world. And as I made it, I was like, oh wow, you can actually climb like this too, and you can set each paw, and it creates all these different mechanics. And I actually started the game in 2018,
Mm-hmm.
and sat on it because I was like, wow, this is a really cool mechanic, but I don't know what to do with it because I didn't want just an Angry Birds clone that you could be anywhere. I wanted a whole thing about it. And once I played Rayman Legends, I'm like, oh, this is what I need to do, and I need to expand upon this. And so I combined those two things, and I started creating levels oriented around chasing and destroying and collecting, and I built out a story from there too.
Okay, and like, how would you describe, the gameplay to someone who might not be as familiar with like just video games like this?
Okay. Yeah, definitely relating back to that Angry Birds thing again, but being able to do it anywhere. Yeah, basically it's a two-legged cat that places two paws, and you pull the head back, the catapult,
Mm-hmm.
pun intended. Um, and the whole idea is you destroy everything, you collect things, you run away. You got a story. There's planned 20 levels. Um, and yeah, I think that kind of explains it, unless I missed something. But yeah.
Okay, and yeah, so like when I played the game, I noticed you had to control like each individual paw in order to like get it ready to actually launch. What made you decide to like go with that type of setup where, as you said, it's based off of Angry Birds, where instead of like Angry Birds, you just like pull on the slingshot and launch and watch them go?
So I actually whenever I started creating the game, like the whole concept is odd at first. So I went through various tests. I created a bunch of different control types. I had several where you would click exactly where you want to place the pause. And those felt weird because on a mobile device, the game becomes shrunk down, and trying to be super accurate about that becomes hard. Um, and when I was like looking at Fortnite, for example, and I noticed it had two joysticks, and I'm like, oh, that's not a bad idea because it's kind of this like three-dimensional movement in a way because you're placing the pause to be able to do the next thing. And so joysticks stuck with the left. It's basically the left side of the screen does controls both of the pause, and the right side of the screen controls the head. Um, and that happened to work, and it flows with a lot of people, and other people it didn't. And speaking of these controls, after PAX I actually implemented a new method of controls that you can select between the two. So you got the joysticks, or you can play in a clicking method where it's hard to explain. So you can like click to the right of the cat, and it'll try to place a paw as close as it can to where your tap was based
Mm-hmm.
on the distance from the head. So it actually has this relative movement thing. So now instead of joysticks inspires like a console-like control play. But this other method works well with like tablets and being able to just place the phone on the table or something and tap around and drag the head. So it kind of allows the different people to play how they want to play. And you can choose that at the beginning of the game or change it in the middle of a level if you really don't like it. Whatever way works for you. It's been interesting after I added that other method on, like I can actually play on the PC compared to before it was actually kind of tough with the joystick. Um, but I still want to play joystick on the devices if the device is small enough. Like tablets really inspire that tap and drag play instead of that joystick play. But
Okay,
yeah.
and yeah, so what made you decide to go with like the motif of cat saving the day? Are you just like a cat person, or is this inspired by like some sort of cat related thing, or did you just decide like if it was a cat, it would just like fit with the design we're going with?
All I think all of the above. I like cats. I have
Mm-hmm.
cats. And that method of doing the slingshot reminded me of a pounce in cats pounce. And being able to climb, it all kind of like really worked well together too. And then yeah, this the story is kind of plays into that too, where the theme is that cats aren't pets. Um, but the whole story is trying to is someone is trying to capture all the cats and make them pets, and cats aren't one to listen to people's demands. So the whole idea is this cat is kind of a renegade like hero breaking free out of pet servitude to save all the other cats.
Okay, and like when the game is, fully ready to go, what will be like the entire how long will it have taken from like idea to finished product, would you have say?
It's a little weird because, like I said, I started in 2018, but
Mhm.
I worked on it for maybe like a month in that time and didn't know where to go with it at the time. But I started back on it in October 2021. Um, I jumped back on and I started putting everything together, and it's been pretty consistent since then. So we're at, I think, 7 months now. I guess you can add that extra month, so we're at 8 months. I'm hoping to keep it at about a year if I hopefully finish the rest of the levels. The goal is by the end of this year is to have everything wrapped up. Um, Longer if need be, but I I don't foresee it getting too much crazier from here. Famous last words though.
And like when I played it, it was on like an iPhone, and I've seen it, and I saw it on iPhone and other smart devices. Are you aiming like for just like the mobile market, or do you intend to bring it to other platforms? When like time and circumstances allow.
Yeah, so initial release is mobile, and so
Mm-hmm.
it'll be Android and iOS. Um, with this new control scheme and the fact that it plays actually really well on a PC with the other control scheme, I I do look forward to putting it on a PC, but I'm definitely focusing on the mobile part first. It was a mobile centric game anyways. So but maybe afterwards, PC, there's also been thought of like how the joysticks play like a console controller, so you could use the thumbsticks to actually throw paws and drag the head and all that too. So I if I toy around with a console, that would be cool too. But if time permits and how well everything is going, and we'll see.
Um. All right then, and let's see. Has there been like I know nothing about game design, but has there been any like obstacles, hurdles, or parts about making this game that have presented more of a challenge than you initially thought before you went into it?
Uh, I went through. It's targeting mobile has some hard drawbacks of devices being so like varied, and that was for like a month as I was doing play testing with various specifically Android devices because they range even more than iOS does. Was a wild experience trying to tune the game to these lower end devices. Was a sweaty experience, that's for sure. I do software engineering by default, so I was kind of surprised at like the range of these devices compared to normal computers and all these things. But I think it's smoothed out really well now, and it's something I have to worry about a lot less. Um, so that was one of the scary parts. But otherwise, yeah, it's been actually pretty smooth. Unity really brings everything together, and once I kind of figured out the mechanic, it's been smooth adding various things from there.
Um. All right then. And do you think that when it does come out, just that since this is a touch screen like centric game, do you feel that like I know you made the game, but do you feel like, to the average person who, buys this and plays this, that, just putting each plot into position and getting ready to launch, do you feel like it'll be like as natural a playing experience to like the average game player as possible?
I think there's a little bit of a learning curve, and that's why I tried to add that secondary control scheme to apply more to a casual play. And I definitely think because after watching at PAX, for example, it was interesting to see like there was groups of people that really one picked up the joystick really easily, and then another wanted to do the tap and drag. And so now they have the choice between those things. But there is definitely a learning curve. I almost relate it to like someone that would be able to play like Fortnite on mobile device or something like that is probably more inclined to be able to play this kind of game. But if someone that doesn't play like an actiony platformer by default is going to have a harder time. It has a little bit of a challenge. I do want to add modes that allow more creative and just fun play at some point because the mechanics are just fun to play around with. So there is a niche of people that it applies to, but it definitely doesn't hit everyone. And I think it's same with a lot of games. Um, but it's definitely not a perfect game by any means. But it's a lot of fun. I love the mechanics, and I think the story's fun, and I think the levels are fun. Um, and I've had great feedback from everyone, and it's the game is evolving into this really solid experience.
All right then. And I believe with that we can, start bringing this episode of the Pumpkin Copter Cast to a close. I'd like to thank Jacob for joining me today and talking about Cat Crash. And Jacob, before we wrap up, barring some, just life happening, when is like a vague window of release you can like foresee this game coming out in?
Uh, I want to say ideally within like 3 months, but yeah, that's a vague guess there.
Okay then. And if someone wants to, keep their ear to the ground about this game and, any other stuff you're working on, is there like anywhere on the internet so they can follow you?
Yeah, so Twitter at Cat Crash Game, and TikTok at Cat Crash Game are probably my most active social medias that I post stuff to, and they each have their own type of content I post to them. TikTok has more like skits and stuff, but I post updates to both of them. Um, just screenshots, videos, all that, just to give you an idea what's going on.
Okay, and if any of you at home listening to this enjoyed it, you can hit the like button, subscribe, and all that good stuff to let me know you're enjoying the stuff what you're listening to. And if for some reason you have a spare dollar and you want to give me that spare dollar, you can go to patreon.com/slash the Pumpkin Copter Cast, where for just, $1 a month, you'll be entered into a tier where you can submit questions for me to use in future interviews. And yeah, that's about it. Thank you for joining us at the Pumpkin Copter Cast, and until next time, everyone, as I say all the time, have a gourd day, everyone.